It's time to load up some more French fries, specifically Japanese beef curry over said French fries. They might as well classify this as a Schedule II drug because it's that addictive. But instead of destroying communities, we're making homemade French fries with a special seasoning. Tender beef in a gravy just ready to be poured all over my body, the fries. And if you don't want to make your own fries, guess what? This is amazing over regular white rice too. So sit back and enjoy this incredibly versatile dish that'll fill your house with the aromas of heaven. Starting out, like any type of stewed dish, we need to do a little bit of prep so we can just dump and go. So I've got 2 yellow onions here that I'll quarter and then slice. You can do a fine dice here if you'd like to. Next, I'll peel a medium-sized carrot and then cut it into smaller half moons. Leaving the carrot as coins is just a little too big for me as far as putting these on fries go. If you're gonna go the rice route of this, then leaving them that big is totally fine, but for me, nice and small. At the end of the day, it comes down to preference. Next, I'll grate about a teaspoon's worth of fresh ginger, and mentioning this again, when grating ginger, you don't have to worry about peeling off the skin. So save those spoons for something else, all right? We'll also need about 2 cloves of garlic minced up as well. Next is the meat. I've got about 2.5 pounds of a boneless chuck roast here, and I'm gonna cut it into 1-inch cubes. Beef chuck has a lot of good fat marbling, as you can see here, and that fat is going to render down and deliver extra amazing flavor into our curry as it cooks. You could buy the already cubed up stew beef, but I've been told by some people that it's not always chuck. Sometimes it's a blend of leaner meats and some chuck, so for the sake of things, just buy a whole roast. So next, we're going to heat a skillet up and put about a tablespoon of oil and a tablespoon of butter, and we're going to sear our meat. We're not cooking it all the way through, just getting some browning on the outside, which equates to flavor. You can also cut out the butter and just do all oil, but I like combining the two because the butter gives some awesome flavor and the oil lends its high smoke point to the butter so it doesn't burn. And by the way, this was safflower oil. We'll also hit our meat with some salt and pepper, which I should have done first before putting it in the pan, but oh well. Sometimes you miss a step in cooking and you have to pivot to fix things. So we'll let this sear over medium-high heat for like 2 minutes, and then we'll take a peek, and if we got a good browning like this, we'll flip and repeat on the other side. You may have to do this in batches too, because crowding the pan will just create a buildup of moisture and the meat won't properly sear. So make sure there's plenty of space between all your meat. Once we're done searing all of that, we'll remove the meat, and then we'll add in half a cup of Cabernet red wine to the pan to deglaze. So pop that heat off and pour it in, and then take your wooden spoon and scrape up those bits of deliciousness off the bottom of the pan. We'll be adding this to our curry later, so just set it aside once you're done. This is also the pour choice today too, some good old red wine while it rains outside. So drink up, because now it's big pot time. I've got my Dutch oven over medium heat, and I'm gonna drop in a tablespoon of oil and a tablespoon of butter. Then I'm dropping in my onions and cooking those until they begin to caramelize. I'll also hit them with a little bit of salt. This might take about 20 minutes or so, but you want them to just start browning up. Once they're there, we'll add in our grated ginger and minced garlic, give that a good stir, and enjoy the smells. Next, we'll add in some Japanese curry powder. I've got this S&B brand that I bought on Amazon, and there is some subtle difference in Japanese curry and Indian curry, so definitely make sure that you are using a Japanese curry powder. I want to say the Japanese leans more into the sweetness. And for this, I'm using half a tablespoon of it. I'm also adding a tablespoon of tomato paste, and we'll mix that all up and let it saute for a little bit to work those flavors in. Anytime you're using a tomato paste, you kind of want to let it cook for a bit. It's something about it coming out that can raw that just isn't too pleasant until you heat it through. Next goes in our beef, along with that deglazed liquid from the pan. Mix that up for about a minute or so. Then we'll add in our carrots, 4 cups of beef broth. Then I'm going to cover this for just a few minutes so it can come up to a boil, and that is enough time to grate an apple. This is a regular red apple. I wouldn't use a green one here. And I'm just going to peel it and then grate it. I didn't prep this earlier because I didn't want the apple to start oxidizing, so doing this now is cool. And if you don't want to put an apple in there, you can, but it's a great flavor addition to this dish, along with a few other things we're going to be adding in next. So grate the apple to the core, and once our liquid has reached a boil, we'll skim off any foam or scum that's risen to the top. You don't have to get all of it, but getting a good amount of it is going to make for a better eating experience. Then we'll add in our grated apple, a tablespoon of worcestershire sauce, or whatever it's called, a tablespoon of ketchup, a tablespoon of honey, 2 tablespoons of milk, and finally a bay leaf or 2. Give it all a mix and then lower the heat till it just simmers, and we're going to let this go for about 2 hours. Now, if you're not going the French fry route, you'd cut up some potatoes and add them in and let them simmer for about 15 minutes after that 2 hours is up. And then you'd serve this over rice. Essentially what you want is all your vegetables and your beef to be nice and tender. So I'm giving this a stir about every 15 to 20 minutes. And as far as fries goes, you can either make yours from scratch like I did, or you can just buy some frozen fries and heat them up in the air fryer or oven. As for homemade fries, real quickly, I'll take a couple potatoes and try to get them cut as evenly as possible. I'm using a fry cutter here, but you can easily use a knife. And you don't have to peel your potatoes either if you don't want to. Get your potatoes immediately into some cold water once you've cut them. Let them soak for 30 minutes. Maybe you want to switch out the water at the 15-minute mark. Then get your fries out of the water, dry them as completely as possible, and drop them first into some oil at 325 degrees for about 5 minutes. Get your fries out, and you may have to do these in batches because you don't want to crowd your basket. This is the process of blanching, so I'm going to take my blanched fries and put them on some parchment paper, and this is just so I can identify which fries have already been through the first fry and which fries are still waiting. Once I've done all my fries at that first initial fry, I'll crank my heat up from 325 to about 360-ish or so, and then I'll do my second fry, again in batches, and that'll go about 5 minutes or so as well. Pretty much we just want them golden brown and crispy, and it's just that easy to make homemade French fries. Now as for the store-bought fries, just make sure you're not getting fries that are seasoned with any type of special fry seasoning because it'll clash with the flavors we have going on here. Plus, we're going to be using our own seasoning in the form of the Shichimi Togarashi, I hope I said that correctly, which is a Japanese ground chili pepper. I'm a well-read person, okay? And this is really good. You'll want to hit the fries with it as soon as they finish, whichever method you're using. Back to our curry, 2 hours are up, let's get it off the heat, and now I'm taking this package of Japanese curry roux, and we're going to use this entire package, okay? Don't be fooled by the spice level in the packaging. None of this is actually hot at all, okay? I promise you that. And what we want to do is break off small pieces of this, and then into a ladle, we'll kind of just stir the pieces until they dissolve into the liquid within the stew. Don't be tempted to just dump all this in and mix it up because what you'll end up with is big chunks of undissolved roux in your soup, and it won't be pleasant at all. So be patient, and you'll notice the liquid starting to thicken up, and this is exactly what we want. After I dissolve the entire package, I put the lid back on and let it sit for about 15 minutes to thicken up some more. There's enough residual heat in there so it'll stay nice and warm for you. Once that time is up, we will remove the bay leaves. Then we plate. Our fries go down, followed by a loving amounts of our curry. And here you can make a choice. You can fry up an egg and top your fries with it, or you can use a Japanese mayo like I am because it is egg after all, and it's just as delicious. This is Kewpie Japanese mayo, by the way. And then that's it. Hit it with a little more of that Shichimi Togarashi and enjoy. This is one of those dishes where it's impossible to just eat a little bit and walk away. Seriously, this stuff is addictive. And that's it for Poor Choices today. Hey, we have a Patreon link down in the description, and at some point these memberships will be active. I'll make the announcements once I finally get the last little bit set up. But any amount helps. $1 a month is all we ask for on the Patreon. I think here on YouTube we'll be asking for $2.99 just because YouTube likes to take its cut. But all this goes towards these recipes, and we really appreciate every little bit that you all can give us here. And when I say us here, it's just me.